How's it going, people? Welcome back to the Arsenal transfer update video. Of course, once again, talking about Viktor Gyokeres. Gyokeres Daily, it seems like right now, as we've got some more news to talk about and a potential bid when Arsenal, we're going to find out when Arsenal will actually put in the first bid. We'll talk about that today. Make sure you do hit that buttons up. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks for all the support shown recently on the channel as always. Get your thoughts in down below. And if you are new, make sure you do subscribe as we are now on the road to 11,000 subscribers. And we do daily Arsenal content. So you don't want to miss any Arsenal content. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Be greatly appreciated. But let's get into it, man. More news about Viktor Gyokeres coming today by The Athletic, saying that Gyokeres remains firmly in the frame. As you know, but as a huge admirer of the 26-year-old Swedish international, he's explored a potential deal with 52 goals, 13 assists, and in 15 appearances for Sporting this season. Gyokeres' numbers speak for themselves. Sporting have indicated relevant parties that they'll be prepared to entertain offers below Gyokeres' 100 million release clause. So as we know, he's got that release clause of 84 million. And the expectation is the Portuguese club will be prepared to accept a fee in the region of 60 to 70 million pounds for Viktor Gyokeres. So yes, as you can see there, the release clause is not really going to matter anymore as 84 million. However, Sporting are willing to accept a fee of 60, 70 million, which is a very, very good price for a player like Viktor Gyokeres. Now, in terms of when this offer could be made, there's a lot of belief that because of Gyokeres' game that he has, I think Benfica play, obviously Sporting play Benfica in the Portuguese Cup on the 25th of May. So I think next week, they play each other. I think it's the last game for Sporting and, last game of the season for Gyokeres. After that game, then that is where apparently all the news is going to proper liven up, and you would expect Arsenal to actually go and make an offer after the game when they play in the Portuguese final when the season's done. And not only that, obviously, 25th of May, it's only 5 days away, or 6 days away, sorry, until the window officially opens on, is it June the 1st? So yeah, 6 days time, literally under a week after he plays his final game for Sporting, the window will open. So this is where we're going to start seeing some more news, of course, but some more concrete news on how Arsenal will expect to, bid around 60, 70 million to try and get Gyokeres in as early as possible, really, because we know we're not the only team in there. We know that there's other teams looking at him as well. But yeah, it's the number one, as we spoke about, the price tag's really good. We spoke about yesterday as well, or the day before, sorry, about his wages. His wages are actually reasonable compared to some of the players that we've got. I think there's gonna be much more. I think Havertz will more wages when he comes in. Gyokeres, there's a few other players in the current team that was, on more wages than what Gyokeres really wants and what they would accept and what he'd accept, really. So I think overall the price really is a bargain if you look at it, especially in this day of football, in this sort of transfer window where we see so many players go now and they're worth so much money. But a player like Viktor Gyokeres, I said it a few days ago, he's the best of the best in terms of in Europe this season. He scored the most goals out of any other striker in Europe this season. And yeah, I know it's a Portuguese league, but he single-handedly ripped it up by himself, and clearly he's quite too good for that, for that league, and he needs a new challenge. So, yeah, I think what we're doing as well is kind of like what we did with. I'm trying to think of the player now. I'm trying to think of the player. I can't think of the player now. I think under Eddie we tried to go for someone, right? I can't remember what player it was. It might have been Rice, for the Conference League. It might have been Rice in that summer for the Conference League. I understand why we're not going in for him just yet, because at the same time you want to no, it might have been Ollie Watkins actually. It's something like that. One of those players, right? It came across disrespectful to the club that we were looking at these players when they had an important game, for example. And obviously Gyokeres' main focus is going to be the cup final. So I understand why we're not really going in for him just yet in terms of putting in the bid, because I think they see it as a disrespect anyway, Sporting, because they got a more focus in terms of the cup finals focus on. But after that, on the 25th of May, after, the season's done after that for them, then that is where we expect us to go full, put in the bid, see what happens. Most likely it's going to be accepted because 60 million it is a bargain. It's an absolute bargain. It really is. And that's a really, really good price. So I expect us to go in there. I expect with Berta's ruthlessness as well. And there's been another report that came out the other day about Berta is that other clubs are actually sort of fearing what Berta's doing, if that makes sense. There's a few reports that so Barcelona's looking at, and they're having to change their transfer strategies because of Arsenal, seem a bit more ambitious, seem a bit more resilient in this sort of new era under Berta. So yeah, I'm fully belief that we're gonna get some. We will put in an offer. We will make a bid. I know there's reports coming out that we've already done that, but they were obviously dismissed by. I mean, reports in Portugal wasn't really reliable about that. Maybe it's a bit of a mistranslation because maybe it was preparing for a bid. Arsenal have not actually bid yet, but do fully expect, guys, right, that when it comes to Gyokeres, when it comes to the 25th of May after he's done that game, when there's only 6 days till the window officially opens as well, that is where we're going to see Arsenal moving quick. That is where, well, that's the expectation. That's what we hope. We're going to see Arsenal moving quick. We're going to see Arsenal making moves and making that first bid for Gyokeres. But could it become a bidding war at the same time? Because as I said, we know we're not the only club in for him. Obviously, there's plenty of clubs in for him because he's a top class striker. So that's my only really concern with this type of deal is could it become, if Man United get involved, if I don't know, Barcelona get involved, because I know Lewandowski may be moving on and they're going to want a new striker there as well. If these types of teams get involved, could it become, well, Sporting can sit there and say, all right, who gives us the most money? They could sit there and say, you know what, whoever gives us the most money, then fair enough. So at the same time, but even if it did become like a sort of that many teams involved and they were bidding, I think we've proved that we can do that even without the whole Declan Rice situation, right? With when Man City got involved and they put in their first bid, but they knew, I think Rice chose Arsenal, and that's why they didn't go in for the second bid in the end or something along those lines. So yeah, listen, for me, it's all going to be about after that cup final, guys. That's where we're going to get really excited for it. I think is after as soon as Sporting play their cup final. I don't expect much news to really come out about in the next couple in the next week. But as soon as that final ends, as soon as Gyökeres is done with Sporting for the season, this is where Arsenal should be acting, and I believe we will be acting. Berta means business, guys. Clearly, this guy means business. Getting it all online. He's the one pushing for this more at the moment than Arteta is. I made a video yesterday about how Arteta is a big fan of Benjamin Sesko instead, and would actually prefer a move for Sesko. However, of course, I don't think he's going to mind signing Gyökeres. It's just that's what we need. We just need a striker holding up this shirt. Yeah, in the brand new shirt everyone's gassing about. Yeah, it's a nice shirt. All you need is a number 9. Yeah, striker holding up the shirt. Ideally, Gyökeres as well. And then there's a few just I went on this as well, guys. There's actually a few alternatives that we're looking at. Reportedly looking at Ollie Watkins again from Villa, 40 million, which is not even a bad price for Watkins. I know he's 30 years of age, but Watkins for 40 million. We're looking at also looking at Hugo Ekitike as well from Eintracht Frankfurt, who's a highly rated striker over there. Obviously Sesko we was looking at as well. I think there was a few other ones we was looking at. So listen, Gyökeres hopefully is going to be that main guy, and hopefully we could talk more about some positive news next week, guys. As soon as he finishes his cup final against Benfica, and then as soon as he's done for the season, that's when hopefully the news will come out where Arsenal have put in their first bid, and we'll see what happens if it gets accepted. And obviously the player side of things as well, in terms of he needs to agree the personal terms, which I don't think will be an issue, to be honest with you. Again, I said this the other day, but could he be tempted by his own manager? In going to Manchester United. But I mean, you look at the current situation, Man United. Yes, Man United are winning trophies. To be fair, they're most likely going to win the Europa League against Tottenham. They're going to win. Obviously, they won the cups the past 2 seasons. But you look into their Premier League season as a as a club. They keep changing their manager. They're sort of more of like a project. What we were doing a few years ago, if that makes sense. They're in the gutter right now. They're still nicking trophies, but it's still going to take them a few years to get players in and get them back to that top level. And yes, they are one of the biggest clubs in English football, and that doesn't take away their credibility. That doesn't take away their history. But if you're in the mind of Gyökeres right now, where he knows that Arsenal need a striker as well, obviously, and you're coming into a team with a much better squad, much more better players around you. much better chance, playing Champions League football number one again. I know Man United, if they win Europa League, they could play that as well. But in terms of how we're going in the title race and competing, I think he'd be more attracted to Arsenal personally. So yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting week, guys. Obviously, all the best to Gyokeres for the cup final, and yeah, and then we'll bid for him. Hopefully, we'll get him. But we'll talk more about that later on, guys. Thanks everyone who watched as always, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Thank you, guys, as always. Coming you guys.